The Renaissance, spanning from the 14th to 17th centuries, was a cultural revival originating in Italy that celebrated humanism, innovation, and the revival of classical knowledge. This is the first time linear perspective, chiaroscuro, light and shadow, and sfumatos, blurring edges to create realism, have been used. During this period, oil painting was also invented, allowing for greater detail and vibrant colors. Some notable artists are Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. The Baroque period, flourishing from the late 16th to early 18th centuries, was marked by grandeur, drama, and emotion. Artists of this era employed elaborate ornamentation, dynamic compositions, and dramatic use of light and shadow to evoke powerful emotions and religious fervor. Baroque art often depicted scenes of intense action, theatricality, and spiritual ecstasy. Some famous artists of this period are Caravaggio, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, and Rembrandt. Rococo emerged in the early 18th century as a reaction against the grandeur of the Baroque, emphasizing elegance, frivolity, and decorative exuberance. Characterized by pastel colors, ornate designs, and playful themes, Rococo art embraced sensuality, romance, and the pleasures of aristocratic life. Neoclassicism emerged in the mid-18th century as a reaction against the excesses of the Rococo, drawing inspiration from the art and ideals of ancient Greece and Rome. Neoclassical artists embraced simplicity, symmetry, and rationalism. Their works often portrayed heroic subjects from history, mythology, and literature. Romanticism emerged in the late 18th century as a reaction against the rationalism of the Enlightenment, celebrating emotion, imagination, and the sublime in nature. Artists of this movement sought to evoke intense feelings and capture the awe-inspiring power of the natural world, often depicting dramatic landscapes, heroic figures, and exotic scenes. Romantic art prioritized individual expression, spirituality, and the exploration of the unconscious mind. Realism emerged in the mid-19th century as a response to the idealism of Romanticism, seeking to depict the everyday lives of ordinary people with honesty and accuracy. Realist artists portrayed the harsh realities of urban and rural life, often focusing on themes of social injustice, poverty, and labor. Their works celebrated the dignity of common people and emphasized the importance of objective observation and truthful representation. Impressionism emerged in the late 19th century as a reaction against academic painting and the constraints of realism. Characterized by a focus on capturing the fleeting effects of light and atmosphere, Impressionist artists employed loose brushwork, vibrant colors, and an emphasis on the play of light to create evocative, atmospheric scenes. Rejecting traditional subjects and techniques, artists like Claude Monet, Edgar Degas, and Pierre-Auguste Renoir depicted contemporary life, landscapes, and everyday moments with a sense of immediacy and spontaneity. Post-Impressionism emerged in the late 19th century as a continuation and expansion of the Impressionist movement, marked by a departure from naturalistic representation and a greater emphasis on personal expression and formal experimentation. Post-Impressionist artists explored new ways of depicting form, color, and space, often employing bold colors, simplified forms, and symbolic imagery to convey emotional and psychological depth. Some notable artists are Vincent van Gogh, Paul Cézanne, and Georges Seurat. Symbolism emerged in the late 19th century as a reaction against the materialism and rationalism of the modern world, emphasizing the use of symbols, myths, and dreams to convey deeper spiritual and psychological truths. Symbolist artists sought to evoke mystery, ambiguity, and the irrational aspects of human experience, often employing allegory, metaphor, and surreal imagery to explore themes of love, death, and the unconscious mind. Art Nouveau emerged in the late 19th century as a reaction against historicism and the industrialization of modern life, embracing organic forms, decorative motifs, and innovative design principles. Characterized by its sinuous lines, asymmetrical compositions, and ornate embellishments, Art Nouveau encompassed a wide range of artistic expressions, including architecture, furniture, jewelry, and graphic design. Fauvism emerged in the early 20th century as a bold and audacious departure from traditional painting, characterized by its use of vivid colors, energetic brushwork, and distorted forms. Fauvist artists rejected naturalistic representation in favor of pure, expressive color, often using non-naturalistic hues to evoke emotional and psychological intensity. Expressionism emerged in the early 20th century as a movement characterized by its emphasis on subjective experience, emotional intensity, and the distortion of form for expressive purposes. Expressionist artists sought to convey inner feelings and psychological truths through exaggerated colors, shapes, and gestures, often depicting scenes of anxiety, alienation, and existential angst. Cubism emerged in the early 20th century as a revolutionary departure from traditional representation, characterized by its fragmented forms, multiple viewpoints, and geometric abstraction. Cubist artists sought to deconstruct reality into its fundamental shapes and planes, challenging the viewer's perceptions and assumptions about space and form. Led by Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque, Cubism introduced a radical new approach to painting that emphasized the process of seeing and interpreting the world, laying the groundwork for subsequent developments in abstraction and modernism. Futurism emerged in the early 20th century as a celebration of modernity, technology, and the dynamism of urban life. Rejecting tradition and embracing the speed and energy of the machine age, futurist artists exalted concepts such as movement, industrialization, and the future. Dada emerged in the early 20th century as a response to the horrors of World War I, characterized by its rejection of logic, reason, and traditional aesthetic values. Dada artists embraced absurdity, chance, and anti-art, using collage, assemblage, and performance to challenge conventional notions of art and society. Surrealism emerged in the early 20th century as a movement dedicated to exploring the unconscious mind in the realm of dreams. Surrealist artists sought to bypass rational thought and tap into the deep reservoirs of the psyche, creating bizarre, fantastical, and irrational imagery. Abstract Expressionism emerged in the mid-20th century as a bold and expressive departure from representational art, characterized by its emphasis on gesture, emotion, and the act of painting itself. Abstract Expressionist artists sought to convey inner truths and universal themes through the language of color, form, and texture, often working on large-scale canvases with gestural brushstrokes and dynamic compositions. Abstract Expressionism became a dominant force in post-war American art, embodying the spirit of individualism, freedom, and creative experimentation. Pop art emerged in the 1950s and 1960s as a reaction against the elitism and pretension of the art world, celebrating the imagery and iconography of popular culture. Pop artists drew inspiration from advertising, mass media, and consumerism, incorporating images of celebrities, consumer products, and everyday objects into their work. Minimalism emerged in the 1960s as a reaction against the emotionalism and excesses of abstract expressionism, emphasizing simplicity, clarity, and reduction. Minimalist artists sought to strip away all extraneous elements and focus on the essential qualities of form, color, and space, often creating geometric, monochromatic, and serial compositions. Minimalism sought to create a direct, immediate, and immersive experience for the viewer, exploring the fundamental elements of art and perception. Conceptual art emerged in the 1960s and 1970s as a radical departure from traditional art-making practices, emphasizing ideas, concepts, and processes over aesthetic considerations. Conceptual artists sought to challenge the notion of art itself, often creating works that were ephemeral, immaterial, or participatory in nature. Conceptual art blurred the boundaries between art and life, questioning the role of the artist, the viewer, and the institution in the creation and reception of art. Contemporary art encompasses a wide range of artistic practices and approaches from the late 20th century to the present day, reflecting the diverse and interconnected nature of global culture. Contemporary artists engage with a variety of themes, materials, and technologies, often addressing social, political, and environmental issues in their work. With no single dominant style or movement, contemporary art is characterized by its diversity, innovation, and ongoing dialogue with the ever-changing world around us.